the gangster rap that is so popularized, which, sociologists point to, that says white-owned record labels are pimping the hip-hop audience, denigrating and oppressing the black community. How you feel about that?
True. In the story, that's true.
It's evident that he cares. What do you care about? Welcome to the Rock Newman Show. It's the Rock Newman Show.
Greetings, and thank you once again for joining us here at the Rock Newman Show 2.0, where we bring you programming from 1918 Martin Luther King Avenue in Southeast Washington, D.C. I unapologetically express that I love the idea that we're on Martin Luther King Avenue. We continue to pay tribute. So, given that we do a variety of interviews, I said this on another broadcast, people ask me all the time, what's the Rock Newman Show all about? Well, what subject do you talk about? We talk about everything. And we attempt to speak truth to power and simple truth, no matter what the subject is. Today, I have a gentleman who is a legend, who is a pioneer, who has been in the midst of every music genre that you could possibly imagine. An absolute encyclopedia of knowledge about concert promoting, with a history of having worked with everybody from a Nina Simone to what's the older guy's name who smokes the weed all the time?
Willie Nelson? George Clinton?
The white guy.
Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson, yeah, Willie Nelson. and everybody in between. I want to try to get all the stories out of this guy. I want to welcome to the show Mr. Darryll Brooks. They referred to you in the Washington Post and some other articles. You and your partner, the hippie and the beatnik. Which one of y'all was the hippie and which one the beatnik?
She was the hippie, I'm the beatnik.
All right, beatnik. Darryll Brooks, concert promoter, impresario extraordinaire. I could start, where could I start anywhere? And I'm going to start right here. Detroit, Michigan. The show, NWA was doing the show. They had done the album, song, Fuck the Police. But they had decided in order to do a long-term concert, they had to leave that song out. But in Detroit, for whatever the reason was, and we hopefully will be able to get into that with Darryll Brooks, they decided to do the song Fuck the Police. And the police were there, and they ended up storming the stage, and as history has it, they ran, the NWA ran off, they spread out all over the place. And I want to know this. Darryll Brooks, were you there?
Yes, I was.
Did that happen?
Yes, it did.
Tell me about it.
Plus.
Tell me your remembrance of that night in Detroit.
Well, let me give you a snippet of what happened before, and that snippet is, in our deal in having them tour with us, we had a clause saying that if they sang that record, they had to pay us $25,000. And just so happens this was the last day they were playing with us on the run that we had set up for them. The other thing was, I was in the middle of settlement, and that's when closing out the business of the show. And we had all these groups, the LLs, the Public Enemies, a bunch of groups on the show. And there was a police depot or substation in the bottom of the building at Joe Louis Arena, because they were having a festival outside on the Pontchartrain in the park and that sort of thing. So there were a lot of undercover police too, because it was a rap show, and it was a sold-out show. So you had plainclothes police, regular guys, foot soldiers out there, and the show was doing great. As I was walking out of settlement, NWA was getting ready to go on stage. Easy comes on separate than NWA. So you had Dr. Dre, Ren, Ice Cube, those guys who are on stage. So as I'm walking, I hear the set. Now, if you know anything about show business, there's a certain routine that you hear. I know the music. I know what song is coming next. I also know when they're going to stop, when they're going to start. So as I'm walking, I hear the audience. The audience start chanting, "Fuck the police." I'm saying, oh, snap. They're going to do it. I know it. I start jogging towards the back. By the time I got halfway to the backstage, because I'm backstage, I'm coming through the corridor, I could hear Cube and Ren say, "Fuck it." And when they say "fuck it," the DJ hit the record and the record came on. Brother, the audience went, "Ah!" And as soon as they did that, every police officer in that building started running towards the stage. The group saw them, they ran off the stage out the back door. The police came over the stage, but they didn't know what they looked like, because everybody's, in street clothes and whatever. So the police started grabbing anybody who looked like they might have been a part of the group and trying to lock them down. So they were hitting guys, running in the dressing rooms trying to find guys. They didn't know what dressing room to go to. They go into LL's Cool J's room with a whole bunch of guys from Queens. They started locking up, started fighting. The roadies in the back who were getting ready to put stuff on stage, they didn't know who they were, and they were trying to figure out who these plain clothes guys, because they don't know what plain clothes mean. They thought it was a gang or something coming after them. So they were up there fighting.
Oh my God,
it was
pandemonium.
Like all over the place.
Chaos.
I mean, guys, hands behind their back, guns pulled. I'm looking at the uniform police saying, "What's going on, man? Stop this. I got a show. I got 19,000 people. I can't, you can't stop right now.
Yeah.
You got to tell these guys to stop." And I mean, it was mayhem all over the place. Guys were coming out of the dressing room saying, "What's going on?" Dr. Dre and Ed Lover from New York were in the backstage as well. I said, "Dre, go up there and MC till I get these guys out of here." I started screaming at the top of my lungs, "Bah, bah, 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 bah. You got to stop. These guys, man, we got a show to go on. I don't care what they're doing. We got a show to go on." So my crew turned around and went back to the show, because I had roadies and everybody trying to put new equipment on stage since they had to change over. Everything finally quieted down. The police coming to me and said, "Well, what are their names?" I said, "I don't know their names. Ren and Cube. What are their real names?" I said, "I don't know their real names. I don't know their real names.
Yeah.
This is a guy, that's a group."
Sure.
So I said, let me call the manager, a guy named Jerry Heller. I called Jerry Heller. I said, "Jerry, I'm in Detroit. I'm talking to the police. They want to know the real names of the group." Click. He hung up on me. I said, "Okay, you can't go that door."
Yeah.
So everything kind of quieted down. They ended up catching the guys at the hotel trying to get on their bus. And, that went away. But for at least 30 or so minutes, it was total mayhem. Total mayhem.
And recently I saw something pop up, an interview. I don't know who it was. Might have been Q. That was saying that the police, towards the end of the fiasco, they were just asking for autographs.
Yes, that's true.
Folks, this, you see stuff, you see stuff out there and you question it, because we don't know what to believe now when we see stuff on online on the internet, on the World Wide Web. You getting the real here right now. That it happened. Darryll Brooks was there. He saw the entire thing. He was the organizer and the promoter of the event. We bring it to you live and in living color. Darryll Brooks, thanks again for coming to the Rock Newman Show 2.0. Let me please just start here. Where did you grow up?
Washington, D.C., Freeman Hospital baby.
You Freeman Hospital baby?
Yes, sir.
I'm Garfield Hospital baby.
There you go.
Right around, okay. Where'd you go to school?
My high school was Spingarn, but then my last year,
The Green Wave.
yeah, Greenway. I played football for Greenway in '68. But I went to Charles Young. I went to Shad Elementary School. Then I went to Spingarn. Then my folks said, Daryl, stop. You're not doing anything. We need to change. You need to come out of that. Because I was a street kid, hanging out. I had my own car. I had my own hustle going.
You had your own hustles going. What were they?
Okay, because I'm too old. I'm too old to get busted now.
Yeah.
But I used to buy stuff from boosters and take them out in my gym bag, and I would go to school and I would sell stockings, cigarettes. Okay. Odds and then kind of stuff.
You're an entrepreneur, a budding entrepreneur.
Yeah, my father owned 2 laundromats.
Okay.
So I used to see people all the time. So I had stuff.
Yeah.
And I could go there and make me a couple of dollars when I went to school. And so I always had a little cash in me. And I worked at night with on my father's business. So that's what it was.
Any schooling after high school or no?
No, stop. I went to prep school in Massachusetts because that's what my mother and father sent me, which was total culture shock.
Yeah.
This place in Great Barrington, Massachusetts called Cornwall Academy.
To get you straight.
It was culture shock. I'm gonna say that because I never been around that many white folks. Because the only person I ever saw was the insurance man who came on Friday.
Yeah.
That was it. I didn't see no white folks.
Okay.
And being there, it was like okay, and it was a total, as I said, culture shock to me. Mm-hmm. But doing that, I learned a lot. And then the summer school, because I was short on credits, we ended up going to Europe. So I ended up going to touring Europe. I had summer school in Wales, and then I toured Europe, Scotland, Ireland, England, Wales, Germany, Italy, those kind of places. And when I came home in 67, they were having a march on Washington. And I wasn't home but maybe a week and a half. And I ended up hearing about March on Washington because I've been hearing stuff like that and about racial stuff when I was in London. I heard the Beatles. I bought a Beatles record because I wanted everybody to hear it when I came home because you can't believe this group I just heard.
Yeah.
Well, later on they played at the Washington Coliseum.
Yeah.
But when I came back home, I went down to March on Washington, and I really enjoyed that. But the other part that was really interesting is that I ended up going to Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And everybody who knew I was from D.C. was the first thing they asked me, did you go to the March on Washington? Mm-hmm. And that was a talking point. I made a lot of friends because they wanted to know what happened,
Sure.
How was it,
Sure.
Did you see them say the speech? Yeah, I saw it. I saw it, and I was there. So that was a great impact on my life, you know what I mean? Just because it gave me a cultural exchange sort of thing. And from me being a street kid, I knew how to handle myself. I was playing sports at the time, and I ended up playing sports at the prep school. I played football, basketball, and I did track. And then when I went to Wales, I ended up getting an award for swimming. They got a whole survival test.
Good athlete.
So I did all that. And, I ended up doing my internship at St. Elizabeth's Hospital when I got my last year of college because I was a physical ed and education teacher. So that was my transition here when I came back home.
And then what did you do after that, vocation-wise, work-wise?
I didn't want to I didn't want to get drafted. So when I graduated, you could be exempt if you were a school teacher.
Okay.
So I became a school teacher, a physical ed teacher in Southeast in Harris Elementary School.
Okay.
And I taught until my exemption was up. As soon as they told me my exemption was up, I quit. And I opened up my own business called Darryll Brooks and Associates because I was going to be an advertising photographer.
Advertising photographer?
Advertising agency, and I was a photographer.
And how long was it before something happened, and I want to know what that something was that motivated you, made you think that you could pursue a career in concert promotions.
When I was doing advertising, there were different guys in the street who were doing stuff in clubs, Creambow Palace, different little things. And I was buying their time on radio, WL, WOK, stuff like that. There were jewelry stores up in Georgetown that I was dealing with. And I was doing, selling silver, but I was also marketing that stuff. And I got kind of good at it. I learned a lot, but also it was a little lostness, because in advertising, you get 30 days or 60 days to hold somebody else's money.
Yeah.
So I was getting paid in advance.
Yeah.
I would take the money and say, okay, let me do a show, because now I'm promoting shows for people. I should be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I tried to do a big show, and I bust.
Ah.
Got smacked down.
Yours truly,
oh,
too.
Oh my God! But I'd also done a show on Kenilworth Avenue at Parkway Gardens, and it sold out. So
And what kind of show was this?
I had Black Heat, 3 other local groups, and what I did, I showed movies on the wall, because I had just come back from California at Whiskey A Go Go. So when I go to Whiskey A Go Go, they had movies up in the ceiling, and they had rock bands on the floor. I said, okay, I'm gonna do go-go bands. They weren't called go-go bands, they were called self-contained bands at the time.
Right.
I said, I'm gonna do bands, I'm gonna give away some of their product, and I'm gonna have movies. And it was like, it was fun. It sold out. And the guys wanted me to come back.
Yeah.
But they said one thing that I didn't like. They wanted to up my rent.
Yeah.
I said, no. Soon as somebody asked me for more money, after you don't change the deal on me. I don't play that well. So I said, okay, I'm not messing with y'all anymore. So I tried to go to other places. And that's when I kind of shot myself in the foot. But what I learned from my graphics guy, a guy named Maceo Leatherwood, and he's a good, very good dude, he turned me on to a lot. He said there's a nonprofit organization that's involved with trying to develop a day called Roberta Flack Day. And it was a gentleman that you might be aware of named Tony Taylor, who used to run the Bohemian Caverns.
Okay.
So Maceo...
That's U Street, Washington, D.C., y'all.
Yes, it's 11th and U. And between Bohemian Caverns, between Tony Taylor and Maceo, they got me hooked up with a young lady named Carol Kirkendall, who was also an artist, not an artist, but a writer and a very ex-school teacher that just moved in from San Diego, California.
I mentioned earlier that the Washington Post described Daryl and his partner, the hippie and the beatnik.
Right.
And she was the hippie then.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we connected, they did a Roberta Flack Day in 1972 on the Monument Grounds. When I first got involved with them, I said, okay, I'm not dealing with that, because you can't have me in a room with all these brothers and sisters and then turn around and give this to a white woman to deliver. That didn't work with me. And I couldn't figure that out. But I understood it later. And you got to understand, I was under the influence of Dick Gregory, Minister Lonnie Shabazz. I used to have like booths at the Muslim Bazaar.
Yeah.
I won first place 2 years in a row for my booth. I was selling buttons, posters, jewelry, dashikis. I was selling all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
Because I was going to be a vendor. A partner of mine had a place right around the corner here called the Village Black Shop.
Okay.
And he sold incense. He used to roll and pack his own incense right around the corner. So I was getting jewelry from him, and I used to buy jewelry from the Hanafi Muslims that had on Georgetown. Remember the brothers who got...
Oh, Hanafi Muslims on 16th Street.
I used to hang with them.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Correct. They lived in his house.
Yeah.
So I was dealing with them as well. So I was pretty diverse in my own cultural awareness. You know what I mean? I had a big fro. You know, I was in that world. You know, I wore dashikis, and I was selling them and getting them made for some of the school teachers when I was teaching school. So when I hooked up with them, I said, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to just do my photography, because I'm not going to be a part of this. But what I didn't know is that they never explained to her who and what I did. The only thing she saw was this big dude came into her house, and he was going to be, we'll have him as security. You can't tell me I'm going to be security. That don't work for me.
Yeah.
So I'm not checking for that.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Is that what you see? Holla, I'm gone. So she had wrote a proposal for National Endowment, and she wrote a proposal to D.C. Commission on Arts, and they accepted her proposal. So I get a call from Maceo saying, Daryl, two things. We want to apologize for not explaining to Carol and everybody what your role really was in this whole thing.
Sure.
But we have an opportunity to do this program that they got a grant for in Anacostia Park called the Summer Hut. Would you consider being executive director of that? What's the first thing I said about what they're paying? How much money is it?
Yeah.
When they told me the money, I said, okay, I'm not doing anything this summer. Done, I'll do that. Because it won't disturb anything I'm doing.
Sure.
And I can do it during the day, and it makes sense to do. That also changed my life because we were teaching education, art, and music. We started doing evening concerts out in Anacostia. We had McDonald's, we had National Endowment, we had Cummins Engine Foundation.
When you say you had them, you mean sponsors?
Sponsors. They had a lot of participation. We had the Mayor's Office of Youth Opportunity. We had gone to the D.C. public schools, and Flo McKenzie was the superintendent. She ended up turning us on to the English department and the art department. So we had some of those folks coming out to our summer programs as instructors. So, plus leathercraft and all the regular stuff you would see in the summer camp.
Yeah.
So all those things were happening. We had to then match grants because National Endowment said, I'll give you $50,000 if you can raise $5,000 from the community, stuff like that. That kind of scenario. So the concert was like, okay, it's a natural. I got Tony Taylor, who's an entrepreneur. Yeah. Carol basically booked Dimension's first show because she was working with David Franklin because of Roberta Flack, and Bill Washington wanted to book a show. So his show was Roberta Flack and Ramsey Lewis, and Les McCann at Constitution Hall. Carol booked that for them.
Now, Daryl has mentioned Carol several times. Carol Kirkendall.
Right.
And that is what he's talking about now, sort of the very early stages of what has been, a 50-year relationship?
1972.
Yeah. Yes. Wow, fantastic. I want to stop you for a second. I know you say you were traveling in Europe, not exactly sure what time. Were you there, were you abroad, out of the city, or here when the 68 riots took place?
I was here.
Reflect.
I knew 8th Street because when I was in junior high school and high school, I used to work on 8th Street. I used to work in a clothing store down in Surrey.
Art Young?
Surrey's, it was Surrey's and Lou Richards.
Okay, all
and
right.
I knew the kid, a kid that I went to junior high
Art
school.
Young and Cavaliers were the two, those, I guess they were the more minor league ones.
They weren't minor league, they were great stores. That's where brothers were buying all their FootJoys, claps.
That's where I got my
please.
cool cap from.
Please, but we would go around to Rosenblatt's and get that other stuff and get them to cut up. I was getting, Rocky make me go way into my history.
Come on now.
We used to get shirts made at Needlecraft. And I always had my own shirts, my name on it, stuff like that. We were those guys, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, you got me totally off track. So, going back, yes, I was at the riots. Yes, I knew where the stores were. I'd already worked in 3 of those stores, so I knew where everything was in those stores. So when the riot came, I parked my car up there where OL used to be, ran down the street, walked into the stores. I knew the stuff had already been cleaned out. Some of the guys who worked in the stores ended up getting stores later, like George, had George's Menwear and the brothers across the street. They used to work, all of them worked for the same Jews, same family. And even T, when they had Mr. T on F Street, all those guys I knew because I was in that retail world. I knew who they were, and they were my clients. Some of them were my clients later on. Give you another example, Ducky's Quack Shack.
Ducky's Quack Shack.
I had those were my clients.
Okay.
Melvin's Crab House.
Oh, steaming hot, jumping out the pot.
That's some old DC stuff.
That's for real.
If you don't know, you don't know. I'm sorry, but those were the things that I was involved in. And when school was out, up until I quit, that would be my run. After 3:30, jump in my car, go ahead and start running and doing stuff.
You know what? So you got me now because you're talking about, because you went right away, you said 8th Street. So my brother, let me see. So at that time, I was 16. So I had a brother who was 26, grown, working and all that. And we're seeing the looting out in rural Brandywine, Maryland. And he was like, come on, you want to go up there with me? I was like, yeah. And I had I had saved up a few dollars from something. And man, the brothers on the street was like, you want to buy some jewelry? Want to buy some of this jewelry? And I saw this one ring and this one watch and whatever. They started at $100. We maybe got them down to $50 or whatever,
Right.
whatever it was. And of course, it's hot as hell. And we're leaving out of town. I'm feeling so good about this diamond ring and this gold watch that I got until we didn't have no air conditioning in the car.
I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
Some blue started to come down my arm. And man, my feelings were hurt, man.
No.
They got the rings, the stuff started to stain my hand.
If you weren't in that world, you didn't know. I understand.
Okay, before we come back to your glorious world here, did you ever attend any events in the 60s or even the 70s or promote anything at Wilmer's Park?
Of course. Wilmer's Park, what's the two things?
Pat and Gigi's?
Pat and Gigi's, Seagull Beach, been all of them.
My Lord.
First time, my parents took me to, not Wilmer's Park, but Sparrows and Carl's Beach.
Cars and Sparrows Beach.
And Sparrows Beach. That was like colored folks' heaven.
Yeah, this is by folks.
Here.
In case y'all don't know, this is part of the chitlin circuit.
Right. You can't. I don't want to call it chitlin circuit because that was a place where black folks could go see their own people eat their own food, see their own entertainment. I saw Hank Ballard in the Midnighters. I was like in the latter part of my junior high school year. I saw Hank Ballard sing Twist, and then when I saw Chubby Checker one day on television, I'm saying like, who is this guy? He wasn't funky like Hank Ballard in the Midnighters. There was a difference.
Wow.
The Howard Theater would have kids shows at noon, or a matinee show at Howard Theater for like $3 or $4 for kids. A whole bunch of us, at least about 6 or 7 of us, jumped on the bus on East Capitol Street, rode up to Howard Theater. The word was there was a gang up there called the Detroit gang. It was a Detroit Park gang. And we knew we had to be cool up in that area. We stayed together, got our tickets, sat down in line waiting for to go into the show. This is my first time going to Howard Theater. I was terrified. You know what I mean? I was terrified.
Leadroyd
Park.
Leadroyd Park. Yeah.
So we get there, we go into the theater. We, just like the Warriors, we found our space where we knew we would have no problem. We went to the balcony in the back, so nobody could come up on us.
Yeah.
I watched James Brown when the microphone came out the floor.
Yeah.
I was like, I was blown away. Because I had nenever seen that kind of flair. And when what's the name came out there and threw the cape on James and all that, I was like, wow. It was a marvel to witness that. Because we were kids.
Yes.
We weren't exposed and we didn't see it. And to see these brothers and the music was tight and they were banging. Bang, bang, bang. So that kind of made you say, oh, it's incredible vibe.
Okay. Allow me this.
Anything, do you think?
You were at the Howard Theater on a Saturday night.
Sunday.
Yeah. And oftentimes what would happen, the acts would come into the Howard Theater and play on a Saturday basically on a Saturday. And then the next day they would come to Wilmer's Park. Huh. My driveway, where I grew up in Brandywine, Maryland, was exactly 1/4 mile from the entrance into Wilmer's Park.
Right.
We had a little circular driveway. My dad was symmetric driving. Some kind of way they ended up making a circular driveway. Folks would pull into our driveway. There'd be 6 people in the car. 4 of them would get in the trunk. 2 would go in because they were paying by the head at the time. Arthur Wilmer. And that was my experience, man. So my absolute passion and part of the reason, Daryl, I wanted to get you on here after all these years is because, black music, man, is in my DNA. And as a result of sitting on a swing outside, hearing these acts, all of them, didn't matter if it's Mom Mabley, Pick Feet, Barkham, James Brown, all of the acts. And until I was old enough to sneak out of the house and go down through the woods and get over there. But so you were there with the earlier acts, or seeing some of the early acts.
I've seen Pigmeat Markham, Mom's Mabley out the Howard Theater. I've seen all those guys.
And then
Wild Man Steve.
So then did you then, because after sort of the R&B thing, did you promote some of the early go-go down there? You did not? Okay.
I didn't touch any of that because I was still marveling at what was going on. I was a kid.
Yeah.
Until we started doing stuff in Anacostia Park, and I was under the nonprofit status, and we were doing stuff free in the park.
Yeah.
That's when I started seeing, I was booking, maybe 30 bands over a course of a summer. And so I'm seeing these guys. I'm going up to Carter Barron Amphitheater and meeting acts, because I'm trying to bring them to the park during the day. Tony used to say, Daryl, these acts, when they come to town, all they do is sit around in the hotel all day, drink, smoke. Yeah. They don't do nothing. Yeah. Bring them, get them to come down to the park. And a guy named Al Dale, who worked for the National Park Service, said, bring them down to the park, let them see the kids, let them do a master class. They didn't really call it master class, but that's what it were. And I had Betty Davis, I've had Bobby Womack, I had the Temptation. Them guys came down, hung out with kids in the park, talked to them for an hour, 2 hours, hang out until they got tired, and we put them back in the car or van where we had, and took them back up. DC Department of Recreation would come down there with the showmobile. They would come down because they had a big audience in Anacostia. They weren't servicing Anacostia. That wasn't on their daily route. But we got 20, 30,000 people, and then and during the day we got maybe 1,500 or maybe 900 people down there in the park. Ooh, so they had opportunity to get the eyeballs they needed to justify what they were supposed to be doing.
The seasoning and the education that you got.
You got to understand also, Rock, we didn't have vans. We didn't have a lot of the luxury, I'm calling not luxuries, but service or infrastructure. Yeah. So we had relationships. Yeah, so we would talk to the guys who work for the Park Service. We run out of diesel fuel, man. What we going to do? I got Daryl, come on, jump in the truck. Yeah. They'd go break into the Park Service, get us some diesel fuel, bring it back, and fill up the generator.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We need so and so and so. They go grab a sound cabinet, blew a wire or something like that. They would go get it and give it to us. And we had food. McDonald's would come down with hamburgers and breakfast stuff all day long. So we had that kind of relationship with people. And I think this is, if there's anything I want to share with you, relationships mean more than anything. Yeah. It ain't about how much money you got, how much fame you got. If you don't have relationships and a network of people who have a common goal of doing something positive and service to people, you have nothing.
I'm going to ask you, Don, I'm going to ask you to look right in that camera over there. That's where he is, right, Avis? In that camera right over there. And say what you just said one more time.
I said it from my heart. So I got to
say it again.
I got to put my heart out.
Go on and repeat.
Because that was something that just, relationships and service is your greatest asset. Please be about that. If you can be about that and trying to help somebody instead of worrying about helping yourself, if you help somebody, believe me, you will get help. And I used to say, I've gotten more stuff by giving somebody stuff than I've ever gotten by buying it. You can't buy friendship. You know what I mean? You might get a false feeling with that. But people have given me stuff. And we've had a relationship with buildings where we lost everything but the limp balls in our pockets. Yeah. And the builders said, here, take this. They give us $1,500, $1,000, $2,000, $10,000. Yeah. Come back. Wow. We'll make sure, we'll make this money back. Yeah, and don't worry about paying us now. We know you're going to make us money. Yeah. And I'll come back and have a relationship with buildings for years. Yeah. This was before the Live Nations and the big companies took over. Sure. But when they needed a concert, remember when they had the boy problem down in Atlanta, and they were killing the city, along with the building down there, the Omni, called us, Carol and myself, can you bring a show down here for us to entertain the kids?
Because what Daryl is talking about now, the city and the region surrounding Atlanta was mortified, horrified. There were kids being killed. We still don't know if they got the right person, but it was 10, 11, 12 kids or something
They were taking black boys who disappeared.
Yeah. So that's what he's talking about. That kind of crisis like the sniper, the DC
Yeah,
sniper, the feeling that was surrounding the DC area is what was in Atlanta probably 30 years, 20 years earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the building asked us to come in and bring them a show. They said, Daryl, we want the show to run like at 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock and be over by 5:30 so people can get off the street and take their kids home. We connected, hooked up with our agents, people we knew, put a show together, came down and did it. You know what I mean? And those are the kind of things we found ourselves doing. The Capitol Center, that's something you might like this part. There was supposed to be an exclusive at the Capitol Center. We'd already done shows at the Armory. We'd already done shows at Washington Coliseum. So our shows were successful. We did the Capitol Boogie Showdown, different kind of programs.
What was the first show you did where y'all got it together, came out, made some, what you feel like was some real money? What was your virgin show that got you that?
When you said that the things that transpired on that show will make you fall to the floor. We did a show at the Washington Coliseum. We had gone to Mr. Henderson, who ran the building at the time, and said, we're a nonprofit group. We'd like to do a show. We're going to call it the Capitol Boogie Showdown. There'll be a dance contest for the school, and we'll have some local groups that we'd had in the park perform, da-da-da-da-da. But we don't really have any money, so how can you help us do the show? He said, I'll tell you what. It was an ice rink there. They said, if you put the floor down, the basketball floor down, and you build your stage, I'll make sure your rent, the rent was cheap. McDonald's came in there with a whole bunch of breakfast food and coffee and stuff. We took our volunteers, some of the people who work with us in the park, to help us put the stuff on the floor. We had talked to the school system, so high schools had banks. So we were going to sell tickets in the high school banks. And they took the tickets, we put them to the banks. We had all this stuff, and I think we sold maybe 100, 200 tickets. And we said we getting ready to get spanked. So we got people helping us. There was a guy named Tony Washington. You might know Tony.
Oh, Tony Washington, absolutely.
Tony Washington was working for Needham, Hopper & Steers, a PR firm at the time, who had the McDonald's account. He's helping us. Another lady that was working uptown, she was helping us. Somebody from Channel 7, they were helping us. So we're standing out front of the Coliseum at like 4:15 saying, oh my God, what an embarrassment. But every time a bus came down 8th Street, we see, 10, 15 people come up the street. By about 6 o'clock, we might have sold 400 tickets. People dribbling up the street. About 6:30, 6:45. Oh, okay. Bus load of people come out. They come up the street. Right by 8 o'clock, we had so many people coming up the street. They couldn't take the money fast enough. So what they did in the box office, they just took the money and was throwing it on the floor.
Yeah.
You hear what I said? They were throwing the money on the floor and giving them tickets and letting them in.
Yeah.
The walls of the building were sweating because you had the condensation from the ice down there, the heat from all the people in there dancing. The walls were sweating. Tony said, Daryl, I had dollars up to my shin because they had no place to put it. We weren't prepared for that. That was the show that we will never forget.
Yeah. Okay, and so now, you're nonprofit. At that point. Move us ahead.
I think that when we got involved with the Summer Hut in Anacostia Park, there was such a community vibe there that was so strong because Anacostia, according to some people, was an armpit of D.C. Nobody really cared. You had Fairlawn swimming pool, a couple of basketball courts, but no big activities. And here we had a real big activity. And our afternoon concerts, people were coming from all over the city. If you were in D.C. and you were from uptown, you'd hear guys on bicycles coming 10, 15 deep, blowing whistles, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. They would come over Sousa Bridge. They would come this way, they would come that way. And they would come into the park. That was when the bicycle thing happened. You'd have bus people coming in. You'd have people walking in. So the park was full. The people in the community, mothers, fathers, uncles, grandparents, anybody who came in there whack, doing something stupid, the families would throw them out. You got to get out of here. You're not going to destroy it. And they would run them out the name. So we didn't have no police, except for us saying, no, you can't do that. That was once we said that, somebody's grandma, get out of here, boy, because they knew who it was. The police barracks that was on top of it, they never came down to visit. We never had any problems. Now watch this. I'm talking about 20, 30, 40,000 people in the park on blankets and stuff, chilling. No problem. No problem. And the music, once the music stopped, I would call WL at night sometimes. Gregory Hines, who was a friend of mine at the time, was on the radio. I said, Greg, we're getting ready to let out the park. Let people know. Because when you let that many people loose, they're going to head back across that bridge, got to go back uptown, they got to go to Northeast, they got to go uptown, and all those bicycles. It was like music city, and Chuck did a record with that, Get Your Whistles and Blow. That's where that came from, because they were blowing those whistles and, directing traffic like, don't hit us, be aware you got somebody on your side. That to me was like, it brought songs to my heart, because it felt good, you saw it, and you were part of it.
When did you start going on the road, doing what would be described as the big concerts?
We did a fundraiser with George Clinton. Gregory had turned us on to George Clinton. Greg and I flew to California and hung out with some of the managers, etc. And Ronnie Strasser, George's manager, said, okay, we'll give you this date. We were going to do the second landing of the mothership. The second landing of the mothership. He had gotten away from his other managers and other companies he was involved with. And the DJs around the country were always trying to stick up groups saying, you got to play for me, you got to play for this person. So they had a lot of that kind of street stuff going on. You got to play for us. And they gave us the show. The show sold out. Did incredible business. It had Bootsy, and I forgot who the opening act was. And introducing Eddie Hazel. It was introducing Eddie Hazel. I'll get you a flyer. I'll send you a flyer. I probably got it in my phone. I'll give it to you before I leave. The show sold out. After the show, we're happy because we just made some money. We go in the dressing room, see George and Ronnie. And George said, y'all want to do some more shows? We said, man, we're not concert promoters. We're a non-profit group. We ain't got no money. You can't do your shows. And George said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you my show. You don't have to put up any money. If you do what you did today at the other markets, I'll give you all my shows. We did Richmond, Hampton, Greensboro, Charlotte, Columbia South, Atlanta, all the way down to Hollywood, Florida. We did 13 markets. Sold out everyone but the last one. Woo. The last one, it was a one-way street, a two-way street, so when people were dropping their kids off, they couldn't turn around and go back because the highway, the little two-lane street got clogged up. And that was the first time I ever lost money like that. And I was terrified, and everybody laughed at me. You just did 12 markers, and I got money coming out of my ear. But I wasn't counting money. I was only counting the experience and being responsible for what was in my lane to be responsible.
So he said, I'll give you the shows.
Yeah.
What did he do? Give you the show you didn't have to pay in advance. And then
only thing I did,
you worked out a split.
The only thing I had to do was all the marketing, and my crew and his crew did the production. That was it. And then once the money started flowing, whatever they needed, we need this, we need that, we need this to pay this. We did payroll.
Okay, you mentioned there was going to be the second landing of the mothership.
Right.
Did it land?
I'm going to tell you a couple stories about the mothership. Number one, yes, I'm the one that threw away the first mothership. I'm the one that threw away the first one. But yes, it did land. That's the first thing. The mothership that's in the Smithsonian, I landed that too in Central Park. That's why it was two motherships, okay? And they were stranded in New York. They had a record label who was going to want to do a show in Central Park. George and I had basically I'd separated from them for years, and I get a call from a booking agent and said, Daryl, you know the guys, you know the production, can you do me a favor, can you ride up there and see, can you help me get this show done at Central Park, and I'll give you X number of dollars. I'm a dollar man. If you say the right thing, I can come out the door. You know? I have pride, but I there are certain things I won't do.
Yeah.
But those things that are in my lane, I will do.
Yeah.
So I jumped in the car. We rode up to upstate New York. I walk in the door. The agent was named Jerry Aid. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He had famous artist agency. I go in the building, and I see Gary Scheider. And Gary said, "Oh shit, something get ready to jump off. You know, Daryl's here."
Yeah.
Because they knew me, and you know, they know my vibe. I see George, and George said, "I hope you can help me." I said, "Okay." And I can't say nothing bad about him because this is a guy who launched my career. So I'm gonna see what the rules are. So we go into a room in the back. There's a big long conference table, and I got all these production people, white dudes, truck drivers, scaffolding people, equipment people, roadies. And I'm saying, "All right, what's the deal? Tell me what your problem is, and we're gonna figure it out right now if we want to keep this thing on the road." And Jerry had about $100,000 in cash on him. And as I listened to each one, I said, "Okay, I can do this. I'll do this with you. I'll give you this. Are you good with if I give you this?" And everybody said, "Yeah." Because then it was cash flow. Because they had nothing. Yeah. And we started kicking out money. Yeah. The show came off. I stayed with them from July all the way to December. Jerry was giving me a piece of money every show as a fee. I had two of my guys with me to make sure that the stuff on the road was running properly. And at December, I said, "Jerry, I got to go back doing what I want to do now. I've helped you out. I paid my dues to my brother. I'm out." And I left. And they kept going. They've been touring ever since.
So, give us your sort of bird's eye view of George Clinton, the artist, the businessman, and the person.
Reason I'm laughing, because I just saw George playing in D.C. about 3 weeks ago. He hasn't changed that much. He's a very creative person. He's still smoking weed. I think he stopped doing freebase and all the cocaine, I believe. I saw some of the guys in there. They look tattered and torn. They look real wore out. His business acumen back then were horrible. I lost 2 companies because of his biggest acumen because they had no office in California. So since we were doing the contracting for all the production when we did the shows, a lot of the mail for the production was our responsibility. So they thought we were their managers, which we weren't. So I had the name of a company called Tiger Flower and Company. Yeah. I was being sued because of George, and it was none of my business. Yeah. But we were the only tangible person because our name was on the contract with the buildings. Our name was, whatever document they may have had with George, and they have to go after his money. So going after his money tied up my money. So, I mean, he had a Fed suit with taxes, and they held his equipment down in the Baltimore Harbor or New York Harbor. So they attached the equipment. I had to get equipment brought in from Florida so I could play my Chocolate Jam at RFK Stadium. So I ended up losing a situation there, but that's when I had G Street Express. So we had to get rid of that name because our attorney said, "Daryl, people love what you and Carol do. Y'all's reputation is stellar. Yeah. And if you just give up your name, everybody you normally do business with is still gonna do business with you. They're trying to get him." I ended up having to go to Indianapolis to court because the Batista brothers, who built the original mothership, they were suing George because they hadn't been paid. And the only person they can come after was us. So I go there. I took my DC lawyer with me. That was the only time I lost a case. And I said, the thing I learned from that is that if you're the hometown favorite, you cool. But if you out of town in some other body's turf, that judicial system ain't gonna be in your favor. I don't care how much you come in. They got to be dead wrong to lose a case. Other than that, whoever comes in there is gonna lose. So
I asked that question about George Clinton. What?
Let me say this before you say it. Yeah. I learned a lot from him because I had to travel with him. And as the tours went on, I was the one that was carrying Gary Scheider, Bernie Worrell, Sly. Sometimes Sly Stone would roll with us. I'm the one that was, because we were flying. We weren't on the bus every day. So I'm carrying him through the airport. Now, this is when Sly was doing freebase. Rock, I'm coming through the airport with a butane torch, glass pipes, and this guy with crack in his bag. He gets on the airplane, puts a towel over his head, turns the fan on, and starts doing freebase in the back of the plane.
My Lord.
Okay? So I'm also still traveling with him, so I see him every day.
Yeah.
I bring him to D.C. They said, George said, Daryl, we need to get some B12 shots for everybody. I set up with my doctor up off of New Jersey Avenue. We go in there. I get everybody a B12 shot. So I'm the last one up. I said, Doc Rohn, I don't know if you knew him. Doc, how they doing? He said, man, all your boys are good. He said, but Daryl, you the one that's messed up. I said, what do you mean? Your blood pressure is real bad right now. I said, how can that be? I don't do as much drugs. He said, Daryl, they do drugs and sweat it out all night. You do drugs and you worry about them all day. You the one that's messed up. He said, Daryl, and this is very key, right? If you chase health the way you take care of them, you'll live long.
You'll live a long time.
That was the turning point in my life, because I switched gears. I said, okay, I'm back out of this world.
Right.
You know, because I'm in a world where people are throwing weed, blow, everything all over us.
Yeah.
And it was you couldn't get it. I toured Natalie Cole, for heaven's sake. You know, I'm watching people get hung out the window because they didn't pay their coke bill. You know, I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff. But
As in real, saw somebody being hung out the window?
Yeah. Rock, you know it's dangerous out there in the real world. They don't play. They don't play. You know, hey, he tried to be slick. He took the blow, telling them they were going to give it to somebody.
Sure.
And he and the band did it themselves.
Yeah.
So when the dudes came back to get their money, he thought he was going to get on the bus and be gone. No, the bus didn't leave.
Yeah.
Because Nat hadn't come out the room yet.
Yeah.
So they came after him.
Yeah.
Dude was crying.
Yeah. Knocked
on the door begging, can you please pay this bill?
Yeah.
So I can live.
Yeah. Wow. I was not Parliament-Funkadelic's biggest fan.
Okay.
I always thought it was a gigantic turnoff.
Why?
The diaper.
Oh, Gary Scheider.
And what was that?
Gary would grab a towel out of a Holiday Inn, cut it up, and pin it, and that was his outfit for the day because it was clean. Okay? George would grab something, he would cut his hole through a sheet and wear that. Nobody was doing laundry, and some of that leather stuff stinks after a while if you don't get it pressed up and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people, they were funky. Parliament-Funkadelic.
Yeah.
They, every bit of that.
Yeah.
They were every bit of that. And to be honest, they were living, you end up with 90 people, 70 people on a bus. You know, when they go to catering, they would make 2 plates, one for there, one for to go back to the hotel with.
Yeah.
Because they weren't getting paid that much. You know, it was rough out there.
Talk to me about Bootsy.
Bootsy, very interesting guy, plays the bass well. I really got into Boot when he was opening, trying to do his own tour, but I really liked him when they took me to Henderson, Ohio, when I met Zapp and Roger the Human Body, which was, you know, Roger Troutman. That was the biggest turn on to me as far as that era was concerned. Because I ended up giving Zapp their first tour, and then I ended up turning them on to other stuff besides what George was doing. Because I had them opening for the Commodores, had them on some Patti LaBelle shows, and they were doing other stuff, which the Troutmans wanted to do. They didn't mind playing with George, but he felt that George and them business was a little different, and George thought they were going to be on his label, and they tricked him, and they went directly to Warner Brothers, and it became a riff after that. You know what I mean? Because the Troutmans weren't going to follow in the footsteps of the mob. They said, no, we're not doing that. We're going to do this. And they were building houses and doing all kinds of stuff. And well, you love this. Groups have riders. And on that rider, they have a catering rider.
Sure.
We want food, we want sodas, we want drinks, Well, the tribesmen didn't drink. So what they were doing, they were ordering all this liquor and then putting it on their bus and taking it back. And they would give a big-ass party in Ohio when they got back. I was mad because I happened to be outside.
Didn't have to pay for their
Nothing. So I'm watching Loadout one day, and they open up the bottom of their bus. I'm saying, God, they got a whole store up under their bus. I said, you don't need. I was telling my crew, don't give them nothing.
Yeah.
He said, but it's on my rider, Brooks. You got to give us our rider. They had racks of all kinds of bag stuff, sodas, liquor. They said that we couldn't wait to go on your tours because you sponsored our whole party. But I mean, that was just things that you find out later.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's talk about guitar playing.
Who you like?
I want to know who you would put at the top of the list.
Prince.
That's
Out the gate.
Huh?
Out the gate, Prince.
Really?
Oh my God. You say bass players, I say Larry Graham, which I play Larry Graham, Verdine White, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Sure.
But Prince, when you say guitar, and Gary Shire's a real good guitar player. Lodge is a good guitar player with P-Funk. But Prince was just ridiculous. And he could play a lot of instruments.
You ever do anything with Jimi Hendrix?
No. I went to one of his concerts at the Baltimore Arena. That's before I became a concert promoter. I went and saw him there. I was a Jimi Hendrix nut.
Huh?
I was a Jimi Hendrix
Oh,
nut.
really? Okay.
When I saw Ernie Isley play once,
Yeah.
I said, I know where he learned that from. And I did some research and found out that's what he learned it from, because Jimi Hendrix used to play with Isley Brothers.
Yeah. How would you characterize Little Richard's influence on everybody?
If you saw his documentary, I would endorse it 100%, period. Because the history he had, and if you saw the documentary, you would agree. Those guys, a lot of those guys came out of his organization, or part of his organization, or watched him. And he was the hottest thing. I remember seeing him in a movie, Senator Theater, on Minnesota Avenue. I went to Spingarn. We take our bus and we come over to Benton Road Bridge. You see a big marquee on the side. They used to have, and they had The Girl Can't Help It. I think that was the movie. And there was that movie, and all of us went there. And when you saw him play in that movie, and the outlandish, flamboyant presentation he had, you were glued to him, because he took that traditional to this crazy, wild excitement. And it looked like it switched to gear in reference to presentation. And that's who he was. And that's what he presented. And it was incredible. So I think the white guys, and by me have gone to London, I heard the Beatles. And to me, the Beatles remind me of Motown. But I realized that because Motown was the first one who distributed that stuff in the States. They were mimicking those records, Motown records, in their presentation. And those other groups were doing the same thing. They were singing old R&B stuff there and then coming over here like it was Brand New Day. And with their influence, also writing music that came under that kind of umbrella of that kind of presentation. And it worked. And I don't know, the documentary really said it well, because you could see the different lead singers and musicians of that era who were imitating almost to the letter Little Richard's moves. And nobody, to my knowledge, was doing that at that time. From the research I've had, there have been Mark Thornton and some of those older blues people might have been doing it, but not on the level and the consistency of Richard.
Hip hop. I remember being a dorm director at Howard University. They called us dorm counselors. We ran the dorm.
Right.
And it probably was 79 or so that I just started hearing that, I had a lot of New Yorkers in, and I started hearing this hip hop stuff. And just the impact and the influence that hip hop has had on the world is now the 50th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Is it one, there's so much that certainly people my age can't understand, even what's being said. The gangster rap that is so popularized, which, sociologists point to, that says white owned record labels are pimping the hip hop audience, denigrating and oppressing the black community. How you feel about that?
It's true. In the story, that's true. When I started, was initially introduced to hip hop, George Clinton was on tour, and we used Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five as an opening act. They had a hot record. Curtis Blow had a hot record. Sugar Hill Gang had a hot record, but they had no vehicle that could take them across country. We were the vehicle. George was the vehicle. They had no problem. They had a 8-foot table, turntables under some cushions so they wouldn't bounce. And so people doing spoken word, as far as I'm concerned, lyrics. Yes, I was hip to Last Poets. I was hip to Gil Scott-Heron. But they were talking to this audience. These guys were talking to kids and younger people, college kids, what have you. And it was interesting, it was fun. Radio was playing it. Excuse me. They weren't doing that with Parliament. You might hear Parliament at midnight on a college station. Some stations, like in California, they were hip-hop stations. K-Day, different markets, St. Louis, you would hear more of it. As it grew and grew, Oakland started doing it. New York and Jersey were killing them. But I ended up, I don't know if you know, but I was in the management, co-management with Herbie Lovebug, who was a producer with Salt and Pepper Kid and Play, Kwame, Sweet Tea, and those guys. But I was also still promoting, excuse me, the Run DMC camp, the Flavor Unit camp. There were different camps up there in New York and Jersey that I was doing shows with. But as they grew, there was only a couple of vehicles that were taking them anywhere, and we happened to be one of the organizations that had the expertise and the knowledge to tour them. So we toured all of them. I would say a good percentage of them got groomed on my tours. Public Enemy, for example. When they came out, we ended up touring them. I toured them for 3 years. Taking Flavor into radio stations was fun because he was animated. But also, I had to then groom them. This is how this works. That hoop the hop, you can't do that. It's a business. I took MC Light into a radio station one time. The DJ didn't know who she was. And he looked up, what's your name? And being polite, she said, my name is Kimberly. And all of us laughed because we knew what she was upset about. Like, you don't know who I am? Yeah. I'm Kimberly. I watched Salt and Pepper went from, street girls or whatever you want to call them, around the way girls to now being groomed by Dolce and Gabbana and all these fashion people. I remember Latifah. Latifah was, who she was, riding motorcycles and punch you in the face. Now she's an actress. I remember when I saw those transitions. Kid and Play. Play had a leather good clothing store up there in Queens. He was making leather outfits. And, he talked me into helping him do a concert at Rikers Island because his father was a trustee there, So I've seen them in other elements. I've seen them grow. You'll love this one. Jermaine Dupri was a dancer for Houdini. I've seen that.
Right.
You know, he wanted to be a part of this. So you watch that, and Escape, they used to beg to try to get on the show, but you watched them grow and blow up.
Before I do a final question, I got one before that, and it's just so it's actually I have some attachment to the situation, and I want to get your professional opinion.
What's that?
I've said for 25 plus years that Genuine was as good of a dancer, if not better, than Usher. Let me just finish. That I thought his voice, he could sing as well as Usher.
Right.
That if you stand them side by side, he's more of a sex idol than Usher is, with kind of model movie star good looks.
Okay.
And Usher and Genuine has made a good living. He's protected his money, in spite of some other stuff you might have seen.
Right.
And you know, he goes out and he makes on a weekend, he might make $40,000-$50,000 a weekend.
True, I get that.
Club, the parent, da. Usher's making gazillions of dollars, much more famous, got residency
In Vegas?
in Las Vegas. Why? In your opinion?
Money and talent. Money. Number one, Usher came out of Atlanta, came out of with LaFace, those guys, producers, Jermaine Dupri. Radio station back there was real hands-on. So you were in a syndicate, I don't want to say syndicate, but in a nesting place that nurtured that. A bigger city, Atlanta. Genuine came out with guys here locally, I believe. They did well, but didn't have the same infrastructure. I think when he married that girl, that was a plus because he had publicity on that, but he had the machinery. And you and I both know, when that machinery is behind you, you got lawyers, record labels, distributors, all kinds of deals coming your way. Writers, glam squad, for lack of a better, marketing you, sponsorships, and you become something of a commodity to a commercial world. They will put anything behind you. You'll get all kinds of attention that the average guy could never touch. I used to have this joke. I said, average cat ain't never been to the upper room.
Average cat ain't what?
Hasn't been to the upper room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've never been in the private room in a casino where the high rollers play. They've never been into Hermes and going to the upper room where they bring out the $10,000, $30,000, $100,000 bag. They can't even get a bag. You know what I mean? They can't go in Tiffany's and see that real jewelry. They see the stuff here, but you ain't gone into upper room. So they had, believe me, he was groomed. What Barry Gordy did with Motown. Motown had a school. They were grooming these guys. These guys could not come off that. They didn't pass that program. He wasn't taking them nowhere. James Brown had the same thing. James Brown had a regiment. They had to pass a certain way, dress a certain way at all times, or they were out of there. So if you don't have that kind of discipline and that kind of education, for lack of a better term, you're not going to get there. And we see a lot. I mean, there's maybe 100,000 records come out a day. But there's certain things that make that difference. I can't go on a radio station, get them to play my record. They'll look at me like, yeah, right. We'll take care of you. We'll put you in. We'll let you know. Yeah. Just go in the trash tomorrow morning. Sure. Go in somebody's file. And you can't even buy a record now. You got to be downloaded someplace. So that really gets it hidden. So it's a difference in backing. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, you've been in the boxing game. You know what you went through in boxing. You couldn't walk in there with your man. I'm sure you had a lot of things happen that people have no idea to get through that door. Yeah. I still remember the Airplane Man, though.
Michael Jackson, the greatest entertainer ever?
I loved Michael. I'm going to say the following. I loved his family. I love what Joe did. You know what I mean? Because I played the Jacksons, all of them. And then I had the opportunity to play Michael. And I saw that. And the guy was an incredible artist, very delicate. But I also think Quincy Jones put the right touchings that refined him to really take it a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because Quincy had another whole kind of expertise. And when he put his sauce on it, it was incredible. Let me just show you why I say what I say. You probably don't know this guy's name, Benny Ashburn. You ever heard that name?
Yep.
Benny used to run the Commodores.
Mm-hmm.
Benny had the Jacksons, had the Commodores as an opening act on Motown for the Jacksons. They didn't have no record. They were just supposed to be the opening act, get in and get out. But the point I'm trying to make about Benny, he knew what they needed. But the guys themselves had their own problem. So he did a benefit down in Tuskegee, Alabama, because he was working for a beer company, and gave these guys a break. He said, man, if you ever need help, come see me. Yeah. Well, they took him up on that. They jumped in the van, drove to New York to his house, went into his office, and guess what? Somebody stole all the equipment in the truck.
Oh,
so they had nothing.
Yeah.
And then he took care of them and got them work.
Yeah.
But
while Lionel Richie was still with him.
yeah, Lionel was still with them. But they had their own business, way of doing business. So the guy said, whoever makes the record has to give it to the group first. And then once you give it to the group, if we don't like it, you can use it and give it to somebody else. Well, Lionel was doing all the writing. Mm-hmm. So he said, hey, y'all don't want my record? I have permission to shop with somebody else, which he did. Mm-hmm. He comes out with Lady.
Oh, my Lord.
Gives it to
Kenny Rogers.
Yeah. Kenny Rogers' manager comes in. Yeah. The record is nothing but an add-on to a greatest hits. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even featured, and that ended up blowing him up. He got more money than he could have ever got with these guys. Yeah. He never blinked after that. He never went back. Yeah. They begged him, too late now, I'm gone. Yeah. Kenny Rogers manager, Ken Cragen ended up managing him. Mm-hmm. He left. Mm-hmm. The Jacksons, once Quincy got involved, Quincy knew what the energy was. Michael was that person. Michael was diligent. He was hard tasked. He worked hard. Yeah. Gave him the right. You can't turn back after that. Mm-hmm. It's hard to turn back after that. Mm-hmm. On September the 10th at Madison Square Garden, 2001, I was at Madison Square Garden when the Jacksons played. He did a Jackson set, and then they did Michael's set. It's been on television a couple times. Mm-hmm. Michael was stellar, incredible. And he had Usher was on the show, Maya was on the show, a couple other people on the show. But the show was incredible. But you saw the difference of Michael's work ethic and how his growth had happened versus where the brothers were. Mm-hmm. And he couldn't have done that staying with them. Yeah, yeah. So entertainment-wise, but I still say Prince. I did Purple Rain Tour. I did the tours that he did. And I watched his show. He was playing instruments as well as singing, dancing, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So who do I listen to? I still listen to Michael. Mm-hmm. But catch me on another day, I'm going to put on Prince because I know what I'm hear and it's quality. And it was, I went to Paisley Park to a party he gave once, a listening party he gave once. The dude had a facility. It was incredible. So I don't want to choose. Best I like choosing which kid do you like the best. I love both of my kids. I'm not going to choose between them. They were just great people, great artists, and they presented themselves and left a legacy and a mile marker for people to strive for if they can get there.
You toured them and everyone else. Mm-hmm. So as we close this interview, after we close this interview, I want to talk to you over in the office, see if I can borrow $20.
I'll give you
Thank you for joining the Rock Newman Show. You my man. Man, I've been wanting this for a long time, Daryl. You showed up, and here's the issue.
What's that?
We got to make a plan for you to come back, because I got a whole bunch more.
You didn't get
and
your
I'm
question?
sure they'd be interested in a whole bunch more also.
If you like, Mark.
Thank you,
I have
brother.
no problem.
Love you, man. God bless you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Folks, that wraps us for today. I'm sure you enjoyed I'll see you the next time around.
It's a wrap.